You have given evidence in 2 trials about baby K. If I can ask you to summarize, what did you see at the time, and what did you say to anyone at the time about what you saw and your suspicions or concerns?
I would like to talk in some detail about this, if I may. So baby K was a very premature baby, in whom the mother had not been able to have been transferred to a tertiary centre, so at 25 weeks gestation, was born at the Countess in the early hours of the morning. Baby was stabilised on the neonatal unit, unwell but stable, and, I will go into the details. They have been widely reported. But another nurse, I'm not sure if she is ciphered or not, so I won't say names. But another nurse was the named nurse looking after the baby, and told me that she was going to the delivery suite to update the parents, and that Letby we use the term babysitting, so another nurse sort of covers, while another nurse has to be away. Now, it's been reported, there is a narrative that, I walked in and caught Letby doing something, and that is incorrect. I was sitting outside the room writing in the notes, but by this stage I had significant discomfort. This was February 2016, and I just felt uncomfortable knowing that Letby was in the room. And actually I was convincing myself that I was being completely irrational and ridiculous, and so I got up and went in, just to make sure everything was fine. There's been a lot of speculation about whether the alarms were there or not and all the rest of it, but I didn't walk in and see anything happening. What I walked in was to find a baby clearly deteriorating, and then when I went to assess baby K, the endotracheal tube was dislodged, but importantly, the nurse looking after the baby, who I believe ordinarily by this stage would have flagged up this deterioration, because in a baby of this gestation whose oxygen saturations are dropping, the first thing you do is look at the baby, look at the ventilator. The chest isn't moving. It's likely it's a tube problem, not responding at all. And at the time, my priority was to resuscitate baby K, which we did successfully. I will take this with me to my grave. I at that point thought, well, how has that happened? Now in isolation, in that if nothing else had happened before or after, I would have probably thought nothing more of it. But was it just coincidence that this baby who had been stable to this point in the period where the nurse looking after the baby and Letby was supervising the baby, this event happened? Now, it's been said to me in many different fora, why didn't you just pick up the phone to the police? Or why didn't you raise it with somebody else? Or why didn't you do anything at all? And I know that, it's been flagged up by one of the previous executives that if they had known about that, they would have done something. And something of a mea culpa. Why didn't I? And I lie awake thinking about this. There is a fear because it's such a seemingly outlandish and unlikely thing that someone is causing deliberate harm. It's the fear of not being believed. It's, said to me, why didn't you just stand up and tell everyone what you thought had happened? It is the fear of not being believed. It is the fear of ridicule. It is the fear of accusations of bullying. And I appreciate, and I will say this to the parents of baby K and all the other parents, that seems entirely selfish, just thinking about me and not the baby. But these are the realities. I am trying to explain why that, and I didn't want it to be that. I internalized it, and I wonder, and I will never know if I had articulated that concern at that point. Would it have made a difference? Now, bear in mind by this point, the thematic review Dr. Breary had undertaken had already been done. We had seen a draft report. The staffing mortality analysis that had been done had already flagged up Letby, and in the context of those, I should have been braver. I should have had more courage because it wasn't just an isolated thing. There was already a lot of other information. Now, whether I can't speculate on how people might have responded, but I am trying to explain my thought processes at that time. And I don't know whether it's appropriate to say this here. It's been suggested to me that I just made that up, which is, I will refute it, is nonsense. There is no reason I would. But what I will say is that, I think that is somewhere where I should have had more courage.
Is baby K, we will come to it later, one of the babies you spoke to Sue Hodkinson about in March 2017?
I can't remember.
Okay.
When we come to it.
Okay, do you remember if you spoke to Dr. Breary about your description of that event at all about baby K at the time or not?
I can't remember in detail. I think I sort of mentioned it, in the sense another event had happened, and Letby was there. But I don't think I specifically articulated the thought processes I was having at 3 o'clock in the morning.
So did you articulate those thought processes that you were having at 3 o'clock in the morning, you say, with anyone in the hospital?
I think between ourselves, not at that point. There was and as time went from February 16 onwards, there was an increasing feeling between all of us that, however unlikely, unwanted, abominable the thought of Letby causing deliberate harm could be, that elephant in the room was becoming bigger, and we felt completely impotent to know how to deal with it. We knew that the thematic review had been done and hadn't identified any obvious clinical causes. And I assume colleagues were also aware that that thematic review had been escalated through to the medical director and the director of nursing with a request for a meeting. I'm going to use the word naively quite a lot I think today, assumed that the nursing director and the medical director would look at that and see the pattern and act. And maybe I was reassured that, there is enough there for people to act anyway. I can't really articulate more about baby K.